experience, how would you say that you were treated by healthcare professionals? And I'm sure there's a lot of varying stories for this, particularly because it took so long to get that diagnosis. But overall, it's especially helpful for us as nursing students to hear a little bit more about what people didn't do well and what they could have done better to help you feel heard or feel like you maybe would have gotten a diagnosis sooner, as well as if you had any like remarkably positive experiences with healthcare professionals.
I think responses from medical professionals has covered a certain section of the spectrum, from very positive to fairly negative. I've never been told flat out, there's nothing wrong with you, it's all in your head, stop wasting my time, which my understanding is some people with Lyme have had that kind of response, which must be devastating. I have had fantastic healthcare professionals talking to me about pain and how I'm feeling, what level is my pain at, but they don't just stop there. They don't say, oh, you're at 5, okay, mark it on the chart and move on. They actually talk to you about what my 5 looks like versus someone else's, so they can really get a better understanding. They ask, what would a 7 be? What would a 3 allow me to do? And they've really gotten into greater depth, which has been fantastic. I have had a rheumatologist, I think he was, dismiss my Lyme as even a possibility, because I had taken the Western blot test, which is not super effective directly after an infection, is my understanding. But this was many years after my initial infection. So at that point, I don't know what it would tell you. But because that was negative, in his mind, I couldn't have Lyme. So he was then looking for other things, which at the time I didn't think anything of. But looking back now, I realized that maybe if he'd been a little more open-minded and entertained the possibility, maybe tried a different test, I don't know, different story now. But I think one of the most positive experiences I had with healthcare professionals was with a geneticist in Rochester. And he and his assistant interviewed me for an hour and a half, 2 hours, talking about all of the aspects, the timeline, figuring out as much as they could about the whole experience. The assistant was crying at several points because of the crappy struggle I've pushed through. But the fact that they were able to spend so much time really digging into my experiences and the difficulties and really hearing it and asking me to share and really trying their damnedest to help and figure it out, that really touched me. And at the end of it, unfortunately, they weren't able to give me much in the way of hope. The doctor essentially said, it can always be Lyme. We can never really rule that out despite the tests. So that might be something you'd want to pursue. But something that was really beneficial was he was pointing out that he started by saying, I believe you. And I understand that you're going through this, but I also feel that it is in your head because of what your brain is telling you you're feeling. And from that meeting moving forwards, I was then looking at the, forgive my butchering of the right terms, but the neurological issues that your brain can give you. Because our brains can imagine things that are fantastical and unbelievable and incredible, and we can visualize them, we can literally see them. So it's not a far step to imagine how your brain is telling you you're in pain, so you will feel that pain. There's a fantastic Australian neurologist, I believe. He has a wonderful TED talk about pain and how it feels and what is actually happening within your body and the speed of signals and the situation you're in and the recognition that your brain makes and then decides if you're feeling pain or not. And the whole idea of pain without trauma and trauma without pain, and how the brain kind of decides which you feel, which is fascinating, but a little unsettling. If I can't fully trust my brain, I can't fully trust what I'm feeling. And it leads back to that question of like, it's in your head, you just need to believe you're okay. You just need to tell yourself it doesn't hurt. Which I haven't always found is the best approach, but sometimes it's the one that helps you survive. So I have used it. It just doesn't work for me yet. So I've never had a tremendously negative experience with healthcare professionals, but to be treated as a person and being seen as a whole ecosystem, I guess, rather than purely being treated for the leg you broke. Fix the leg, good. There is some pain, killers, off you go. The first doctor I saw about my Lyme, his response was essentially, I'm sorry you're going through this, but I can't help. Here is 600 milligrams of ibuprofen, take it every 4 hours for the pain. Because it felt like inflammation. It felt like sore muscles, sore joints and such. I've since realized that I had very good inflammation. And so anti-inflammatories don't really do anything. But there's the placebo effect, the psychological side. So that can then be something that may help. So it's, unlike anything else in life, it's something of a balancing act.
So another thing that came up for me while you were talking is, was there a point that you thought it might be Lyme and other people had not yet suggested it to you?
It was when other people suggested it to me that I thought it might be Lyme.
Okay.
Because that wasn't even on the table until I came to the States.
And how old were you at that point?
25 when I first came across.
So almost 10 years from when you, or around
Yeah.
10 years. Yeah. Okay. So what treatments have you received, and have any been effective in the short or long term?
I have received quite a lot of different things, but I think I don't want to say that they didn't work, because with many treatments, it's not just a one and done. You need to go through the course, you need to figure out the kind that works best, you need to find the best method of delivery, and so on and so forth. So I've had like homeopathy, aromatherapy, Reiki, anti-inflammatories. I have gone through, I've seen a nutritionist and had discussions about whether food would be an element, but they believed that I was eating fairly healthily, so it didn't really go beyond that. Like, there wasn't trying like a keto diet or the Atkins or whatever, because I hadn't gained a lot of weight when I was sick and I was eating healthily now. So there may be benefits within diet that would help me that I've just not explored. But anyway, I haven't found much relief from most treatments, except for the LDI treatment that I'm currently getting, which is the denatured protein of the virus, which you take orally. And that, my understanding is, basically works like a wanted poster for your immune system. So it remembers that there is an infection and what the spirochetes look like, so they can start going after them again. Because my understanding with this bacteria in particular, it is very good at hiding, and it somehow trains your immune system to not recognize it as a threat. So your white blood cells and your immune system's thrashing around and kicking over the furniture and causing a ruckus, and bacteria is in the background just quietly eating whatever it eats from your body, enjoying the show. And then when the LDI treatment comes in, it's like everyone in the room just swivels and looks at the bacteria and then goes after it. So it's been really helpful for me because it relieves symptoms from both sides. So my immune system's not attacking my body and the bacteria is busy running instead of being hunted down. But again, it can, my understanding is that it can swim against the bloodstream, it can tunnel through cells, it can change its form into a biofilm, I think it's called, or something else. It has like different stages, and so it's harder to track down despite the best efforts of the body. But the LDI treatment is the one that I found the most benefit and relief from. And I'm not cured, but I'm sitting on a higher plateau with each treatment. So it sort of steps up and stabilizes. And when you get down, so when you go down, your symptoms start getting worse. They give you another treatment to bring you up again, and you then repeat the process. So it's just struggling up a mountain. So
how long have you been getting those treatments for?
Would have been 2016. I got the first ones for like the last 5 years. Oh. 2017 maybe.
But either way, it's been effective for at least a few years. So that's,
yes, 4 or 5 years. And I've noticed a fairly steady increase in my general energy and health and ability to keep working. I feel like I didn't answer one of your early questions on whether I was able to work a full-time job, and the answer was no for a long time. So I first got a full-time job when I was coming to the States, working at summer camp, and that was in 2006, and that was like the first full-time job. And I was also able to hang out with people and have a social life far more than I had before. So I had a whale of a time. It was great. But I was also able to keep working, and I may have taken one sick day that summer, but I was doing things that I loved. Again, there's that psychological side. It's that uplifting feeling, that feeding of something that's important within you is, I find, more than enough to overcome other symptoms, because it's worth pursuing.
And you did mention the Western blot test earlier. Were there any specific tests that did come back positive for Lyme for you?
No. So good question. I got my diagnosis for Lyme disease because the doctor, the Lyme specialist I was seeing down in Utica, she gave me a dilute concentration, if that makes sense, of the LDI treatment, which is the denatured protein. And her thinking was that, or greater thinking was, if your body reacts to ingesting this sort of fragment and your body recognizes it as a threat, having that flare up would then mean that your body's seen this before, therefore that's what it is, if that makes sense.